in 8 weeks' time, you're going to be very scared. Or will you be?
I don't know. I'm feeling a lot better
more
about
prepared
it
now?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, today we're going to prepare more by facing Jason again in Jason Lives, Friday the 13th, Part 6.
Okay, what goes on in Part 6?
Tommy Jarvis unwittingly resurrects Jason Voorhees, who returns to a rebranded Camp Crystal Lake to do what he does best.
This is Apex Jason.
Do you think so? I think this is definitely the best film that we've watched so far.
Yeah.
It feels like a proper film.
Yeah. I think like all the times before that we've been talking about like what is Friday the 13th, who is Jason, this is top. I think this is top of the mountain.
It's definitely.
I'm not saying it goes down after this. I'm saying we're walking across the same mountain after this.
We're on the plateau.
Yeah.
I think shout out to Tom McLaughlin. I think it's the first time it's felt like a filmmaker has wanted to make a film, rather than a commodity, or a thing to put bums on seats.
Yeah.
Like there's so much in this film that is really good. Like it's bigger budget. It feels like I don't know. Actually, didn't compare the budgets, but it's got it's got stunts in it.
Yeah.
It's got actual set pieces,
rather
than and set pieces only happen if they're planned, rather than cobbled together.
It's just, I don't want to say like, it's found its feet or anything like that, but it definitely feels like the most confident one, which means it's the most fun because it's like, I can see reasons behind why things are happening, which in a lot of the other ones, I have no idea why that just happened or why that character is the way that they are.
Well, it's like, it's completely ignores the events of the last film.
Yeah, which I like.
I mean, I love that it kind of opens up with like recapping some stuff, but then it's just like none of that happened.
No.
The Tommy Jarvis we meet is almost like we're meeting for the first time.
Yeah.
After the events
of 4.
Like as a grown up.
Yeah.
Or as a teenager anyway.
Yeah. I think like, it's because it's quite strange, isn't it? Because we've been trained now for that opening to not be real. In other films where like the opening has been like in the last opening when we saw Tommy Jarvis, like that was almost meant to be like a little dream sequence of him. So we've been trained like that. So when we get to this, I was like, is this real or is it not?
It definitely is real.
Yeah.
I tell you, so it opens with this prologue where to make sure Jason's dead, he digs him up. But in the act of digging him up, actually brings him back up to life.
That's so
I think
funny.
In the history of film, that's a pretty bad fuck up.
Thing is, if you felt bad
it's
before...
It's exactly the opposite of what you were trying to do.
If Tommy felt traumatized before, now, whatever happens after this, Tommy, is your fault. So, like that guy, your mate, dying, that's your fault. Because Jason was sleeping quite soundly before that.
Yeah, because also, so it just seemed like just the act of being buried down there. Actually, it's even worse than I just described it. Not only has he brought him back to life, it seems like reviving him using electricity or lightning has given him superpowers.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think he is dead. I think he is done.
Oh, he's absolutely done. Although, again, ignoring the events of the previous film, in the previous film, there's that one scene where they say he's cremated.
Oh, yeah.
They say he's cremated. It's like Jason Voorhees, if he's cremated. So again, another clue that Jason isn't real in that film. So
unless
ignore that.
Unless, to be fair, we know how bad emergency service would be. I'm like, I think we cremated him. Do we cremate him? I don't know where he is. I don't know. We might have cremated him.
He's definitely not cremated in this. It's quite a strange one because it's unclear really what Tommy's trying to do, because later on in the film, which is like just the next day, it seems like he knows a lot about the occult and what he wants to do to vanquish Jason for good. But what he does on the night is he just tries and stabs him with a metal rod, which becomes a literal lightning rod.
Yeah, to be fair, it does maybe seem like he knows about the occult. It does seem like he was starting that book quite early on. It sounds like he's on page 1.
Well, he's just been to the library.
Yeah.
He's on a bunch of flags against his name on a bunch of registers.
Yeah.
But so he kind of... It's like the grave digging scene at the beginning of Frankenstein as well. And they're digging up the dead. They put the skewer in him. And that just like resurrects him. But again, supercharges him. Because the first thing he does is he punches a hole in a man's chest.
Yeah, he's been strong
before. But that is... A lot of what he does in this film is like OP.
Yeah. Okay, but so how does this connect? Well, we kind of talk about Tommy's definitely not a killer. The flashback isn't in his
he killed
head.
Jason.
Yeah.
And he has got out of like a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah.
Because the guy who digs him up with Jason at the beginning is a fellow inmate.
Yeah.
So he's obviously had a troubled time since the events of 4.
Yeah.
So that is a thing, but like it doesn't, he hasn't killed anyone else.
Yeah. Why?
He hasn't killed Pam.
Why does Tommy have the red mask? Is that a massive fuck you to the to the blue mask to go?
Well, that never existed.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, does he have the red mask as a sort of like fuck you to the film before it to go? We've actually forgotten about that.
But surely it's more just
that.
to play continuity with what came before.
That's right. But like, does he have? Why does he have that? Where's he got that from?
Well, it's like the Michael Myers mask.
Yeah,
because there's no again, it goes back to the idea of law enforcement maybe not being good with evidence.
Yeah.
Because after the events of 4, surely that's been confiscated. Because if he spent the intervening years in a psychiatric hospital, he probably, like, if he was in a psychiatric hospital, you can imagine a lot of time that Tommy's been in is trying to get over his trauma.
Yeah.
Having that mask around probably ain't helping. Also, one even further, if you're digging up the body of Jason Voorhees to make sure he's dead, don't take the mask.
Yeah.
And don't do it on Thursday the 12th.
Yeah, that's just silly.
I think just asking for trouble.
Also, who paid for Jason's headstone?
Exactly, because a lot of like killers aren't in public cemeteries for obvious reasons.
Yeah. Are they in like bad cemeteries?
I just don't.
They're not all together though, are they?
I just don't think sometimes they even are afforded that dignity.
That's a bad move if they are all together
one
in the bad one. But the thing is, I feel like if they put all of the like serial killers in one, people will be going to visit that. Like goths would be there now.
Well, yeah, and just odd people.
Yeah.
So they had to tear down Fred and Rose's house and turn it into a park because obviously, like, nobody's going to live in that house.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Or the person who wants to live in that house shouldn't have a house.
Shouldn't be allowed, yeah.
Shouldn't be out and having a house.
Yeah, no, that's pretty bad.
The Eternal Peace Cemetery.
Is that what it's called?
The Eternal Peace
Cemetery. To
Cemetery.
be fair, they are called things like that.
They get a good, get a good bit of mileage out of that cemetery in this film.
Yeah.
It's like a full-on chase sequence through it.
Yeah.
Like when he crashes the car in over the railway tracks. If you look at that entrance to the cemetery, it's straight onto the railway tracks.
Yeah, this is a long way away from just filming in Corey Feldman's garden.
Yeah, that seems so dangerous that the exit to a cemetery goes straight onto a train track.
Tracks, yeah.
Feels like the cemetery wants more people.
Unless there's got to be another entrance to it because
I think it's a fake. Obviously, I think it's a fake entrance they built for the film.
Yeah,
so that's not a real one. But just because maybe it looks cool and they can drive the car in fast.
True. Yeah, because otherwise you've got so many awkward moments for funerals, aren't you? Like, just waiting for this big train to go past. Sorry, you're crying. This was the first Friday the 13th that I saw.
Really?
Yeah, there's the first Friday the 13th that I saw. But what's interesting watching it now is I was terrified of this. Like, really? I was like properly terrified of this. And it's strange to me that anyone could be terrified by this.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, I think it's just well made, and I think it's really fun.
Yeah,
I think that's the because I don't think I have seen this one before. My main observation is it's really well made and fun to watch.
I can't imagine seeing this the year it came out or the day that it came out in the cinema. But it was amazing
because there's sections of this where these are not rounded characters, but when they die or in the scenes, the writer, Tom McLaughlin, the director, he tries to give them stuff to do. Yeah. Like different stuff to say.
Yeah.
And we'll get on maybe that. But like, what was actually his general thought? Like all the meta stuff in the film, like that's a lot more production effort than you've seen and a lot more thoughtfulness than we've seen in other films.
Yeah.
Because they're obviously going for a whole like Frankenstein thing. So the gas station that Tommy's outside of is called Karloff's.
Right. Yeah.
And, I wrote down a few bits, like the first, the couple who were driving in the forest. Going, I've seen horror movies. People go out like this and guys in masks, they get killed.
Yeah.
Like, this is several years before Scream. Yeah. The idea of like a character knowing they're in a horror movie.
They're in a horror movie, yeah.
And the one where caretaker Martin, who's getting pissed up in the cemetery, goes, why'd you have to go dig up Jason? And then he looks into camera and goes, some people have a strange idea of entertainment.
Yeah.
Almost like satirizing movie-going fans who love horror movies.
Yeah. No, that's good. There's a lot of that in it.
There's one more that I actually did look up, and it's a bit of a misnomer. But you know the little girl in the cabin at the end called Nancy? And she keeps having bad dreams. And I was like, oh, it's them like ribbing Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
It's because his wife's called Nancy.
Thing is, because I was thinking now when I was watching, it's like, how close are we now to to Nightmare on Elm Street being incredibly popular? Because
it's like 84.
Yeah, so how close are we that? Because like they become quite silly and quite fun.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they're just like, we don't have to be so serious. We don't have to, because I think like that's the weird thing about 5 is very serious, like in tone, even though it's about kids. Like there's no
this one and the last one.
Yeah, in 5,
it's serious, but also like it's got
weird bits.
It's got Junior in, like going
true,
hiya. And I think that film is all over the place.
Yeah,
you've got people scatting, but also using the C-bomb.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that because that was the thing that I was trying to think of. It was like I remember being. Like a friend of mine, Di Powell, had this on tape, like taped off something when we were kids. So I reckon I was probably like 7 or 8 years old, and we watched it around his house. Like we all had sleepovers, like 5 of us watched it around his house, and instantly, but I was just terrified. Just like I remember, like us having to ask his mum to shut the window.
Is Jason real?
Like to shut the window because we were like, that window is big enough for Jason to get through.
And he loves coming in through a window or pulling you out of
That's
one.
the thing. It's like we were meaning to shut. It was like if he wants to get through that, he's getting through that. It doesn't matter like about whether it's open or not.
The Bond intro.
Oh, unbelievable.
But I think I wonder if this is the turning point where Paramount isn't ashamed of the series because it's the first film that has the Paramount logo at the beginning.
Right. Okay.
So it's almost like, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
And it's just like better, classy stuff. Like Alice Cooper wrote original songs for the movie.
Yeah.
I think there's no way he's doing that with the last film.
Because that's the thing. Is like it does work out with them not being embarrassed by it, because then go Paramount. Okay, we've got a load of musicians on our books. Yeah, you can have Alice Cooper. This is perfect. Alice Cooper's a perfect match.
It feels like a more legitimate film. And even think, and I alluded to it earlier, and we'll come back to it in Kills, is just having a scene when you flip a Winnebago.
Yeah.
That's way... And there's car chases in there.
Massive,
there's actual car chases in this couple. And it just feels like a more produced film with like set pieces that aren't just like a pair of boobs.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like
there's no boobs in this.
Not only does Alice Cooper write songs, like he writes a whole theme song for the Jason. Like it's like fucking Will Smith and Men in Black.
It's very Bond, actually.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But maybe that was the idea, that if it was like really, really successful, every film would then have like a goth artist write a song for it. Why? We have to keep an eye on that, actually, because there was lots of films that came out in like the 2000s.
Oh, that's the remakes and Jason.
Yeah, well, there was lots of films that came out in like the 2000s, like I think like Queen of the Damned and things like that, like where the score became, or the soundtrack became a huge part of it.
That happened with Blade, like I'm talking about like Twilight as well. Like people, they were like full on announcements for the Twilight soundtracks. Oh, I don't.
Because the Twilight soundtracks, whatever you think of those movies, are unbelievable.
Really?
Oh, mate.
What kind of people?
Like huge things. So that's the first time there's like Muse is on one of them. Like there's a couple of Muse songs, but like there's a Joy Formidable song on like a Welsh band. It became almost like, like FIFA announced their thing. Yeah. It became like, like FIFA, when FIFA announced the soundtrack. It became like that. And like if you were a band and you managed, and they had big bands, but they championed smaller bands like the Joy Formidable as well. It's like, if you were a band that managed to get a track onto a Twilight thing, it's the same as like getting on the FIFA soundtrack. You're like, happy days, mate. Like, and that still happens now, to be fair, with FIFA, where you can just see
it's like having who's the cover star, who's the menu music.
Yeah, exactly. Because like think about all the songs that like remember, I think it was like World Cup Road to World Cup FIFA 98 had Blur Song 2 on it.
There you go.
Unbelievable.
Easy.
Unbelievable. But yeah, like that would have been really good if it was like that.
Yeah, but again, all that like they turn it around in a year. That all requires more people, more effort, more thought, more collaboration, more bringing it together on a deadline to be able to achieve something like that.
Yeah.
It's not just like, I'll do. And it's like a really ragged production.
Yeah.
I think one more thing to say just with the setting is obviously we've got this presumably the same time jump that we had from 4. So the jump between 4 and 5 was 5 years.
Okay.
Because Tommy Jarvis has to grow up.
Yeah.
This is similar, I think. They've had enough time to rebrand or rebadge Camp Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
It is now Forest Green.
Good. They should. Like, at least change the name.
And it's this weird thing where it feels like some people in that town know of it.
Yeah.
Know of Jason as a legend, but it's also a kind of a bit of a cover-up, bit of a just like, let's collectively as a society and a community move on here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, despite all that, you are still opening a summer camp.
Yeah.
Which you know he hates.
Yeah, by any other name.
And interesting, this one, it's actually kids.
Yeah. Well, so we talked about this really early doors in one of the first few episodes, going like, one, does he ever kill a kid? But do the camps ever actually open and they have kids? And they do.
You see it, and it definitely, again, ups the stakes a little bit for that finale. And when we go on to victims, but there's a bit more threat.
Yeah.
But what I love about this film is the tone of it. People actually, there's that kind of like a knowingness of where they are. Like the kids going, oh, we're fucking dead.
Yeah.
It's like quite cool that they're like, they don't know they're in a horror movie, but they have an awareness of like, this is wild.
The thing that really made me laugh is Nancy, when she's like having her nightmares and stuff like that. Bearing in mind, this is a kid that's been left, presumably for weeks. Like, I don't know how long camp lasts. It's not overnight. They ask her name. How fucking unsafe will you feel? Your parents have left you with someone. They don't even know what your name is.
It's not even a register.
Like, I'm not saying that they should know everyone's name day one, but like, how scared would you be if you woke up from a nightmare?
It's not very comforting,
and someone's like,
is it?
"What's your name?" I don't know. That really made me laugh. I was like, that's the least comforting thing ever. It's like, yeah, my parents have just left me with someone. I'm sleeping in a room with more people than I've ever slept in the same room with. And this motherfucker's looking after me, doesn't even know my name.
Imagine like kids are going to a camp that's in the same state, probably. Imagine,
I'd look it up.
At what point are the mum and dad, they've got their holiday booked.
Yeah.
They're driving. They're going, is this not near where Camp Crystal Lake used to be? And they're like pulling down the drive. It's like, I think it is. We have got 2 weeks booked in Mexico.
Yeah.
We have got 2 weeks booked in Mexico.
Thing is, it's really interesting we talk about like the people knowing that they're in a horror movie, because I always think about when I'm watching things like this being like, if the events of Friday the 13th, just say part 1, right? If the events, everything that happened in part 1 happened in real life, that's talked about constantly. I feel like that's not going away. I feel like that's almost like a Columbine style thing.
The thing is that I see what you mean, but then those have happened more and more.
Yeah.
And barely register now.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's Columbine, because
Yeah.
it was maybe the first that had international attention.
Yeah.
But they happen quite frequently now. And I think people come and nerd to it.
But I think if
which
I
is
was
part of the problem.
If I was sending my kid to a summer camp, I think I would be like, oh yeah, but wasn't it like that thing that happened once? Oh, happens to be at the camp that we're sending.
But no,
to.
it's the exact one.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
The brochure says Forest Green.
Forest Green sounds so
They've
nice.
rebadged it, you idiot.
Forest Green sounds like what the flavor of like a thing in your car is, like an air freshener in your car. Yeah. It's is it on Friday the 13th?
Yes.
Yes. Good.
Which is just because I think it's Megan who points that out in the sheriff's office. Man, if you were a sheriff working in Forest Green, formerly Camp Crystal Lake, I would at the beginning of every year have a meeting where we underline the Friday the 13th in the calendar.
Get loads of people.
Because she says it and her dad doesn't know what date it is.
Yeah.
I'd be like, well, I'd be on guard. You know, like the detectives in Haddonfield.
Yeah.
They were on guard every Halloween.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is like even normal people sending their kids to the camp, there's no excuse for this. Be like, if you took the job in a place where someone has murdered multiple people on the same night, you would be on edge.
Sheriff Garris's daughter works at the freaking camp.
Yeah. And he doesn't know
And
about it.
he doesn't know that it's Thursday the 12th going
Yeah.
into the 13th. He's just like, yeah, it's fine.
I think if you move to a place, because I don't even think that's an excuse. Say he came from like across America. Yeah. I think people would make more of a thing of telling you about Camp Crystal Lake because they'd be like, oh, there's this local legend that happened. Like,
also, you think as the sheriff, he'd be privy to like the actual files.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like, what the fuck is this?
What's this, like mid-80s? It's like not every sign's being replaced immediately. There'll be loads of Camp Crystal Lake signs
everywhere,
about.
Yeah. That's also, that would have been a thing as well. Where I mean, like, I think reopening, that would have been made national news, I feel like. Although, to be fair, I actually don't understand. When you watch American news when you're in America, or if you see clips or anything like that, because the states are so massive, everywhere has its own little news thing. So maybe it just gets lost in skateboarding squirrel stories. I don't know. So,
but the core of this film, after the last film where it wasn't Jason, it was a copycat Jason, and there's lots of strange and confusing stuff.
Yeah,
this is very much like, let's go back to basics.
Absolutely, yeah.
Jason, bunch of kids at a camp
covered in worms. Well, let's talk about him a little bit. Because I've always thought that the more you see him do, the less scary he is. And while I don't think this is scary, I actually do feel like they've gone for a thing.
He does funny stuff in this.
This is what Jason does now. Yeah. And a lot of that is turn around very quickly. Yeah. On the spot.
Looking puzzled.
Yeah.
No, he does really funny stuff in this movie. A lot of spins. Yeah, but I love it. He feels tried to say, like, he's always massive now. That's what he is. But the fact that he's undead, I think just having that hint of his like kind of ashen skin.
Yeah.
It's like quite bluey, it's quite gross.
It is really gross.
And I think they're really good with not showing you too much of his face in this one.
Yeah.
Because that becomes less impactful. I think there's this very much suggestion, like, what is he like under there?
Yeah, because I do like when
like the Elephant Man.
Yeah. Like, I guess like that's a good point as well, because you're basically then helping to create like the mythos just around that mask as well, and being like, this is Jason. Yeah. It's like, what's Jason? Like the ugly? No, this is Jason. The mask is Jason.
And when I think of Jason, I think of him how he looks in this film with those like with them kind of like with that clothing. Yeah. Which is how there's some variation of that since 3, but like this is the one I picture.
Like overall sort of
like
work
dark blue,
shirt.
dark. Yeah, this is what I think of.
Yeah, maggots dropping out of him when he walks.
And he kills people in interesting ways, but I love that. I do think the implication is the electricity has made him
super strong.
Yeah, because he's definitely supernatural.
Because
like he's dead.
That's the thing. Yeah,
I think we've been on that course for quite a while now.
Yeah,
I love that it's made him just like absurdly strong.
Yeah, I do really like that. Like in the other episodes of this podcast where we've been like, there's an argument to be made that what about that? No, he's fucking a zombie back from the dead.
Yeah, because he's been buried for 5 years.
Can you just imagine?
So was it just the weight of the soil keeping him in?
No, I think like...
No, it was the revivification.
Yeah.
That is such a fuck up by Tommy.
Yeah, it's great. It's
like probably... It could be actually one of the worst fuck ups in movie history.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is the exact opposite.
I definitely...
And you've made him stronger.
Yeah. Because also, you've also given him his mask back.
I know that we talked about that when we did the Halloween series.
Yeah,
is in Halloween, the David Gordon Green first one.
2018. Yeah,
take him his mask.
Yeah,
why do that?
That's gonna wind him up.
Because it's almost as similar move to the Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah,
and to that point, he was just chained up.
Yeah.
In a yard, and he weren't bothering anyone.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You've reactivated it.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's really funny. So I was like, oh yeah, we're actually moving Mike in a bit. Just gonna let these people come in and wind him up for a bit, and then we'll chuck him in a van.
Why are we moving him near Halloween?
Yeah,
gotta do it sometime. We're not making a concession to the Halloween killer.
And the same with that as well. It's be like, if you were Tommy Jarvis's mate, and you're like, mate, I know you've been talking about it all year about going to make sure that Jason's dead. I was thinking maybe we'll do it just on the cusp of it being Friday the 13th. Yeah. Should we do that?
I thought that was Asylum Chat.
No.
We're actually doing it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't really want to do that anymore. Because
that makes sense in the asylum. We're not doing it.
That's the thing, is like, if you're doing a lot of Asylum Chat in the asylum with someone, you'd be like...
You probably let a lot go.
You don't know that you are... I don't think... But asylum people necessarily on board with the fact that they're in an asylum.
I assume they've been discharged. I think they have. I don't think they've escaped. I think they've been discharged.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because no one's trying, like, there's never, I know it's like a short time span for a film, but there's never like a threat as like people are looking to get him back.
No, that's a good point.
Do you know what I mean? I feel like he's legitimately allowed to be out.
Yeah, I think I think it's maybe it's one of those places.
He might have been there voluntarily.
Yeah, I think so. I get that. It's sort of,
but not like the place in the last film.
No, definitely. I think it's an actual place
which had no clinical value whatsoever.
It's interesting because I think as well, this is almost with the Jason. This is where we kind of get the idea of like he's like a relentless force as well, because there's so many times in this where people just run away and then he just strides after them. He doesn't do it like Michael Myers. He does walk at speed, but it just feels like he is an unstoppable force constantly that will get you. Yeah,
absolutely. And we get a bit more similar. It really reminds me of like Ginny in part 2, but Megan becomes the mouthpiece to like recount some of his motivations. She says, what if you returned looking for counselors responsible for him drowning? Again, this idea of projecting a motivation onto him. Or maybe he returns looking for the one responsible for decapitating his mother. So I think Tom McLaughlin is trying to like build up a mythology for him. Yeah. And I think that's really added to Tommy coming up with a plan to put him to rest once and for all. This idea that a monster has to be returned, you know, like a ghost persist until they like do their business. Yeah, it's like Jason needs to go back to the lake. Yeah, and obviously it has that great finale and that image of him like drowning in the lake. But it's that idea that like a vampire, he needs to be killed in a certain way. Yeah. Which again makes him feel more like a classic monster.
Thing is, though, I love that. I really do love that idea. But also at the same time, Tommy, he was dead until you came and dug him up, mate. So
he wasn't a
don't you tell me how to kill Jason.
Until that point, he probably wasn't a supernatural monster.
He hadn't killed anyone. Again, like for ages.
Again, maybe the biggest fuck up in film history.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, man. There's some bits though that I really do like.
There's 6 more films after that.
Yeah, like there's some
that's
things
he's responsible for.
Well, that's why it's interesting that we're there. Like I think we're top now, and I remember 8. I don't remember 7 at all, so I'm excited for that. But I think it's really interesting what they let Jason do, because it was all, you know, there's some bits where we talk about like in like earlier ones where he does things like take a kettle off the boil and things like that. Like, I'm like, oh, that's not very scary. But in this, some of it is almost shot and makes it sound like Police Academy. Like it really reminded me of like those kind of like silly comedies, like particularly the paintballing scene. And there's a bit where he gets shot with a paintball, and Jason, like when he like checks the blood to make sure, he's like, like,
no, it's
that's
funny.
Very funny.
I think it absolutely is meant to be funny.
Yeah.
Or when is it Lisbeth? Yeah, Lisbeth in the third kill, she offers him money.
Yeah.
She's like, and then there's that bit of the American Express just floating in the puddle.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a funny little punchline to that kill.
Yeah. Who is it? Is it Darren? Yeah, Darren and Liz, isn't it? Like in those
car at the beginning.
Yeah, we literally talk about this in episode 2 of the podcast, where we're like, will we know when we've arrived at the Jason?
This is it.
This is the Jason.
It's definitely my favorite film so far.
Yeah. So give me a little kill overview.
We have 18 kills in this movie and some really creative ones. I think a high point being a triple decapitation.
Yeah.
And my other favorite being a heart punched out through someone's chest.
Oh, that's unbelievable. Yeah.
And only one partially off screen, so you actually get to see a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, so we've gone down since the last film.
Yes.
In body count, but
I think quality
is shot
way up. I just, so many of these I think are like, what I like about, so we've compared this to the last one.
Yeah.
That's what we can, and I think so many of the decisions in this movie are a reaction to the decisions made in that movie.
Yeah.
So where that was like, basically soft porn.
Yeah.
In this one, you don't even see boobs.
Yeah.
Ever. And then in the last one, where it was like quite scuzzy and all those characters were really annoying.
Yeah.
I think the singular characters at the beginning, because you know normally your main characters are the crescendo at the end.
Yeah.
But then you can't have no kills forever.
Yeah.
And like we said previously, those characters that killed early on in the film can't be main characters, because the main characters would be like, what's going on here?
Yeah, no.
So they have to be these isolated, almost like vignettes or sketches.
That's the thing.
So here you've got Darren and Elizabeth in the car, which is really funny, because they're like, I've seen horror movies, we do not get out. And then he's like drive and he'll budge.
Yeah.
He doesn't. You have the people on the away day doing paintballing.
Unbelievable.
The misogynist who gets killed because he gets shot by a woman. He's just like raging about it. And then he has his arm ripped off. They're very funny, like little sketches, those bits. So they're not just dispensable kills. He's like,
no.
I think McLaughlin's gone, well, I've got to kill 3 people. Let's make that good.
Yeah. I think what's really interesting about those ones, particularly like, is usually when these sort of like, because we talked about this before, is like you need to have people who aren't, like you say, like who aren't just the camp counselors, because they'd be like, oh my god, 18 of our mates have now been killed.
Yeah.
Like, whereas the interesting thing about this is it keeps cutting back to the main storyline, and I don't remember it doing it that much before. Like usually, like we talk about like the hitchhiker with the banana, that person's dispensed of straight away, and it's like it's just a cutaway kill, and it's just, and then it takes you back to the main story. The paintballing thing is like a B storyline almost.
It feels like you're watching Caddyshack.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's got its own tone, and
that's what I mean. It's like Police Academy. Feels like that. Yeah,
like it's like thoughtful. Like their boss, and they've obviously these blokes have got a bit of a chip on the shoulder that their boss or their female colleague is better than them. But then she puts the bandanas on them that says "dead."
Yeah,
just before they get killed.
So funny.
And it's just, again, just a little bit more thought has gone into those bits when I think other directors have made them quite dispensable.
Yeah.
I just need some kills.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like, well, when you add all these stuff up, that's up to quite a lot of your movie.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's why I think like there's a respect being shown to these other people. It's not just, oh, I've come up with a 3-minute scene that I can just chuck in anywhere in the film, like, and it doesn't have a bearing on it. Whereas this is like cutting back and forth is really good.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
About Bert.
Okay.
Bert is the guy who's raging about his boss being a woman.
Yeah.
And just like, you should stay in the fucking kitchen.
Yeah.
Jason smashes him into a tree.
Yeah.
And his face comes down, cuts back to Jason. Jason's holding his arm.
Yeah.
But on the tree is a little smiley face in blood.
Yeah.
So he's done the Forrest Gump joke first.
So Forrest Gump copied Friday the 13th is what we're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
In many ways. But I've got like a bigger question. In the tree, there's like 2 eyes and a little smiley face carved into the tree bark. Was that already there?
Yeah.
And then all that he is given to that is the blood?
Yeah.
Or has the impact of his face in a comedy way done those 2 little holes and a smiley face line?
Well, that's why I always...
Like the Forrest Gump gag.
I think
it's like...
That's why I always think about Forrest Gump, because a lot of obviously unbelievable things happen in Forrest Gump, right?
It's the most unbelievable, though.
But when that is a bit in Forrest Gump that when it happens, I genuinely am like, I'm sort of checked out a little bit. You're making me care a lot less about Jenny's AIDS, let me tell you, because this doesn't feel real anymore. Because the guy wipes his face. Forrest wipes his face. A guy's like,
that's how you are. Some guy wipes
I don't know, he's got a fucking beard. But like this guy is like hassling him, being like, oh, I'm trying to come up with
nobody likes yellow.
An idea.
That's what he says. Like, nobody buys yellow. Use this one.
Also, that guy doesn't seem like he should be running a t-shirt company, is what I'm saying. So, but he then he puts that. So Forrest wipes his face to wipe some mud off that a car splashed him with, and then when he takes it away, like it's almost like the Shroud of Turin.
Yeah.
But it's a smiley face and becomes the "Have a nice day" thing,
which is now the basis of all emoji.
It is. That's the worst bit in Forrest Gump. But it's so interesting that they stole it from Friday the 13th.
They did.
Yeah.
And that's why I can't work out whether you're meant to think Bert's face is instantaneously carved in the little expression, or had somebody done that with a pocket knife and it's just like he's giving it like the red outline. Anyway, it's
more fun to think
the former.
Yeah.
Again, that's just a fun little bit.
It's very fun, yeah. This is my favorite film for a lot of reasons. But is Tony Goldwyn the best actor that we have in the Friday the 13th series
so far?
Forever, I think. Like, he's an amazing actor.
I think you've forgotten about Kelly Rowland.
Kelly Rowland we got coming up, I guess, yeah. But like, I completely forgot that Tony Goldwyn was in this. And when he turned up, I was just like, this guy, he's like Hollywood's, because I think, so he's the grandson of the Goldwyn, like Metro Goldwyn Mayer.
Because he's also in Thingy, isn't he?
He's in fucking loads, mate. He's the baddie in Ghost.
Yeah.
He turned up in Oppenheimer recently. He's in loads of stuff.
He's in Kiss the Girl.
Kiss the Girl, yeah. He's the bad guy in that.
I tell you what. So who's his grandfather?
You know Metro Goldwyn Mayer?
Yeah.
The Goldwyn in that.
How do you think he got his break?
Yeah, no, exactly. He's the first grandson.
God, it's amazing they both end up working in film, isn't it?
Well, this is another one as well we
Funny.
got in this, is, Court. So I was looking at Court, like the guy, the sort of gothy guy.
Oh, yeah.
So I was looking,
yeah. Who his cousin is.
So I was looking at him and I was like, oh, that's interesting. What was he? Oh, he's in Face Off. Okay, what was he interesting? He's in Phenomenon. We've already talked about Phenomenon.
He's got a familiar feel to him, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's like we've seen Phenomenon. We're supposed to be Mad City. We've seen 3 quite big John Travolta. Oh, he's John Travolta's cousin. Or nephew. Like nephew of John Travolta.
It's coincidence he's in all those films, isn't it? Yeah. What is the chances of that happening? The thing is about Court is like, he's like the character that is like the more kind of abrasive, annoying character.
Yeah.
But also, I would say he's still not unlikable.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Even the character we talked about in the last film, and again, this film being not in conversation with the last film, a rebuttal of that film.
Yeah.
That Court, everyone in that film we found dislikable.
Yeah.
Court is kind of that character, but also I actually quite like him.
Yeah, he's decent.
He's not annoying.
No.
The director comes from like, he was a mime originally, but he come from a comedy background.
Right.
So he's been a writer on like comedy shows and stuff.
Yeah. And
you can tell that, whereas the other guy came from porn. So you can see the sensibility. Do you know what I mean? But like, that's their skill set, right?
Absolutely. Well, I think that we talked about it before. Was like when we saw like Jordan Peele and John Krasinski get these like big horror jobs. We talked about it before, like on a podcast when we were way back at IGN, where it was like comedy is all about timing, and in a way, horror is also all about timing as well. So having people who understand that an audience reaction is based off the back of timing, I think is perfect.
The kinship between anticipation and release, and that can apply to a kill or a joke.
Absolutely,
it's build up, pay off. And that's just like, I do think there's massive overlap between the two genres. But also people not thinking just because you never worked in horror. It's quite a transferable skill.
Yeah, no, definitely as well. Annoyingly, I think if the porn director was on the podcast, he'd be like, "You build up, pay off, mate. That's what I'm all about." Yeah, but you do it in a shit way, mate. So.
Film can't be 20 minutes. But I keep looking at like my kill list here. Not that one. But so many like interesting ones. We're just talking about Court, but Nikki.
Nikki
Parsley.
This is amazing. It's one of my favorite ones.
He like impresses her face into the metal of the Winnebago.
It's weird, isn't it? That's almost like Nightmare on Elm Street. Like Freddy's face coming through the wall.
I think some people thought it was a reference to that.
Right.
But it just looks great.
It looks wicked. Also, the sound on that is horrible as well. And it just shows like how strong he is, I suppose. I guess like the other one that we get is like we get Stephen and Annette. Who's like Stephen, like some of his dialogue.
We see the people like having the champagne in the forest.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
And like she's trying to like get it on with him. I think he has a line which is like, "Oh, such a messy act."
But it's just like really pretty, and they almost again, McLaughlin kind of. I think I read this thing where he hadn't seen pretty much any of the films, or maybe the first, and then before he went to Paramount, he just watched them all back to back.
Right.
And this feels like a reference to the skewering. So in 2 we have the double skewering in the back when they're shagging. This is like through the front. He's almost again just trying to like have a little bit of kinship to the Kevin Bacon thing. Just linking it back using like a spear.
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely that, because I guess like the reluctance of Steven to actually have sex, and then they're still getting killed anyway. Like,
well, that's a good point, because Court and Nikki like go at it, but it's not done in a salacious way.
No.
And also all the kids, like some of the films, it feels like they're actually like deviants, or especially in the last one, like absolute degenerates. And whereas these kids all seem like
pretty
normal.
Decent.
Like Megan really wants to get off with Tommy.
Yeah,
I'm not saying like they're holier than thou or anything.
No,
but they're not like foaming at the mouth.
No, that's
in
true,
every single scene.
Yeah, I think maybe like that's something the director has gone, that's unnecessary.
Or eating handfuls of weed.
Yeah,
just
maybe at the time, maybe that's how you actually do elevate those movies, is just go, because the other ones feel like maybe they are there's a ceiling on the age of people at that time who maybe would enjoy them. I mean, like we're like 30, like in our late 30s, and like we didn't enjoy that. Do you know what I mean? Like, but then at the time, I don't think Friday the 13th Part 5 would have been made for people in their late 30s.
No,
people in their late 30s back then, essentially people in their late 60s now.
I think they weren't. at that point, I think Paramount were really happy for it just to be a money earner for them.
Yeah.
They probably didn't interrogate it so much. 5 got a terrible fan response.
Right.
It still did money because people didn't know it was shit before they sat down.
Yeah.
It was, word of mouth spread differently back then.
Yeah.
So they still got decent box office on 5. But 5 being crap actually hurt this film.
Right.
This was the lowest grossing film so far.
That,
But that's a reaction to what happened in 5.
Yeah.
This did well on home ends, and obviously VHS market was big back then.
Yeah.
This got people back in, but
Right.
actually did really poorly at theatrical.
Yeah. You could see that though, wouldn't you? Like, 'cause you wouldn't go, like, I would
You would be like burnt about it.
just think about, like, when was the last time you went to watch a Marvel movie in the cinema?
It's a while now.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
But I've checked out. Like,
'Cause you've been seeing some-
but I would be like, now it's enough time. Like, I would be like, I
Yeah.
will go see Fantastic Four.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, because you saw a couple of duds and was just like, God, that cost me 25 quid
Yeah.
and my afternoon of my time. Well, it's going to come on Disney Plus now, so I'll
I
just
think
watch it now.
Shang-Chi was the last one I saw.
Ah, to be fair, I saw that. So
But that's still,
I
mate,
didn't mind that.
that was 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
Also, just one little footnote about it not doing great at the box office. It did open against another quite good film.
Oh, amazing.
Another sequel in a franchise, Aliens.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's not going to be as good as there because I guess like you're going to love Alien.
There's only been one Alien.
Aliens is a very different movie, but it's very fun cinema movie.
Big, like, we're not doing an Aliens podcast, but 7 years between those two films, the first and the
Is
second.
it?
Yeah, 79. I think Alien's 79, and this is 86.
Maybe that's good. Yeah, I guess.
So you think about that, that's quite an anticipated release then.
Yeah.
And also, it's Cameron.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I wonder.
It's not Cameron, he established, he done Terminator.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, guns,
Yeah.
guns, and cool people being cool with guns.
So it's got a bit of a bum rap going against Aliens.
yeah, no, that's true. Actually, yeah. Yeah. Do you have a favorite kill?
I like him. I like when he folds the sheriff in half like a futon.
Sheriff Mike is my favorite one because I can't believe that we see so much of that. Yeah. Like I generally can't.
It's like
That feels like one. Like you remember like when the guy doing the handstand is completely sliced in half, and then he's folded up and put into the roof. Yeah. You see the folded up into the roof. You don't see the folding.
It's really good.
Whereas this, you see the folding.
I wonder if that gets past the censor because it's not bloody.
Yeah, no.
Do you know what I mean? It's just a weird image because
yeah.
the triple decapitation.
Yeah.
I watched some test footage of that on YouTube. I think they built like quite a good mechanism to do it.
Right.
And then the body's falling out of shot. But I think there was like the censors just went,
nice, pack it in.
That's too much. It's 3.
Oh, that's cool that they built that.
Yeah, I think they had a real good time like working on some of these effects. Again, especially like, I think it's the sheriff. I think the sheriff also deserves it because he don't believe anyone for the whole thing. He's almost that textbook version of the person who's not buying it. He's like, motherfucker, you work at Camp Crystal Lake in that area. That's your jurisdiction. It's Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Tommy Jarvis, who, if you've consulted any of the files, which you should have done when you got this job, he has faced Jason before.
Yeah.
It's just like, so he kind of really deserves it. And then the other one we've talked about already, like, I do think Nikki's face getting pushed into the Winnebago.
Really good. I also like Officer Pappas getting his head crushed.
That's good.
Like, that's a really good one. But I think it goes to the sheriff because like the sheriff just is, we talk about being like unlikable people. His just reluctance to even just understand, because there's a bit where he's had Tommy in custody for pretty much all night, and then a phone call comes in to go, oh, but somebody else has been killed. And I'm like, oh, okay, right. This is now the turning point where the sheriff is like
wakes up.
Yeah.
Because even if you don't believe the theory, people still get murdered. So you need to switch on,
absolutely,
mate.
Yeah. So I thought this is the bit now where we're going to switch, and he's going to be, he's going to understand what's going on, and he's going to open up a little bit to how do we actually deal with this. Gets off the phone, immediately has a go at Tommy.
He's really good in it, that sheriff, at doing that
really
thing.
Good,
Just because I thought about it when we talk about like the sort of meta stuff, but because it's to do with the sheriff's office. There's quite a few scenes in that sheriff's office. There's a couple of bits when they refer to locations in the wider area.
Okay.
I can't remember the street names, but it's like Cunningham Way.
Yeah, I saw that.
And Carpenter Street.
That's pretty good, isn't it? That's good shit.
They talk about the police officers. Also, what a great name, Deputy Rick Cologne. And the guy you mentioned, what was the sheriff that you like? Got
Officer
killed?
Papas.
Officer Papas, when they're doing the car chase and it's his daughter.
Yeah.
And he's just like that. And he goes, "Do you want the whole enchilada?"
So good.
It's so good.
It's really good.
It's really fun.
What can we learn from them though?
I mean,
I got a good one.
you go.
I got a good one. Well, I got one crap one. No paintballing. But I've never liked paintballing, so
wanna do
it wouldn't be
paintball.
up. It wouldn't be up there. The thing that I never
But
understand.
they're
about-
doing like an away day, aren't they?
Yeah. So, but
Don't
also,
have an away day at
I've always,
Campus
I've
Lake?
always hated those as well. But I think like paintballing is. I've done it like 3 times, and every single time I come away from being like, why do people do this? Because you get these. If you get shot, it really hurts.
It like creates a welt, doesn't it?
And you
Like,
get these mad welts on your body that don't go away for months. I don't understand why that's good.
you know why it is. Because there's a certain
People
type of
yeah.
probably man
Yeah.
who wants to experience combat.
Yeah. Weirdly, the person who showed me Friday the 13th Part 6, Di Powell, is really into airsoft. And he does like airsoft weekends where he's got like proper.
I feel this is
guns and
his
stuff like that.
first experience of
Maybe
it.
that's what it was. Yeah,
It was like
he
if
probably
Jason
loved
turned
it.
up, no, just because you were talking about like people being into guns.
Yeah.
That mad laser sight on his gun.
Yeah.
I said, do you need a laser sight when you're like,
Yeah.
when the gun is there?
Also, as well, like that.
It's very funny how massive it is.
How much laser sight shooting are you doing in a small town like that?
I think that he's almost like Bumpkin Cop.
Yeah.
Like they never get a chance to do anything. But
Yeah.
when it actually turns out that you can do something, they fuck
Yeah.
it up so badly.
Yeah, no, that's true. Actually, yeah.
I mean, I'm down for no paintballing or no away days while we're there.
No way days.
Because we're there to work.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I do have a genuine one though,
Okay.
because we will be doing this thing,
Okay.
which is driving. Don't get lost, because if you get lost, that's for me is the same as being naked. You're vulnerable, and you leave yourself open. So don't get lost.
I think that is the one, because this next one, like we said before, some of these should be implicit. This one for me is in and around the date of Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
We don't dig up the body of a
Yep.
killer known for killing in and around Friday the 13th, near where he did his killings.
Yeah.
And we don't accidentally reanimate him using electricity.
Shouldn't be doing any of that.
But I think that is tacit. That's implied.
But also, that's the thing, is that we are going to be in around the area around that time, kicking about, looking for something to do on holiday. And if you can't be asked with
To
Uno
be fair,
anymore-
if that was an experience offered,
Yeah, no, to be fair,
I would be doing that.
I would be down there, yeah.
How long do you reckon it would take to dig up a grave?
Well, have
I actually had
have
no
you ever
i-
dug anything? I've dug a thing for a fish pond, which I guess you could almost say is comparable to a grave.
Wider, but not as deep.
It took ages.
How deep were we going down?
Pretty deep, because you've got to go all the fucking like irrigation stuff and things like that. Digging takes ages.
Graves,
Yeah.
using like the common phrase, are 6 feet under, right?
Yeah. Let's say
Like,
that.
yeah, you're buried 6 feet under.
That's ages.
Well, it's taller than me.
Yeah.
Jason's a big lad,
Yeah.
so has a big coffin. That's taken forever.
Yeah.
That's taken a good, 2 of us doing that. 4 or 5 hours?
Because-
least?
Yeah, we've talked
So
about
you're
this.
going to get tired.
Yeah, we've talked about this before and stuff, but like when you get those videos that are like swordsman reacts to Braveheart and
Yes,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
I think this would happen. If you put a chef watching Ratatouille and stuff like that, they're gonna go mad. But I think there's one bit in all films that if a undertaker was watching the movie, they'd be like, that's bullshit. Because I think the way that people are buried in films is actually doesn't work, because like basically someone will die, they'll go to the funeral, and then the headstone will be there.
But they have to let the ground settle.
It takes like a year. It takes like a year for the ground to settle properly before you can get the headstone. So that's what I'm saying is like that ground, that's been there for a while. So we can't even say like, oh, Jason died last week and it's a bit easier to dig it up. That ground has been settled.
Well, it's 5 years.
5 years. It's been settled for ages.
One, that video exists.
Yeah.
I've seen
Does
it.
it?
Yeah, on GQ. No, the GQ on Wired.
Yeah.
There's a series they do with this incredibly charismatic Undertaker,
Right.
who basically reviews depiction. He answers questions and reviews depictions of stuff from films. And he does, like, you know, when they send in, it's called like expert advice, where they send him in questions, and he'll just explain like what embalming is.
Right. Yeah. So what I think, what are we saying? Like, don't get lost.
Don't get lost is just, yeah, I think that's it's good general advice for life, which some of these I think are good as well. Yeah. But also very good in the context of this film.
Of this, don't get maybe
because we don't accidentally
don't get lost on the way to Camp Crystal Lake.
No, because we've got to make a video.
Well, thing is, in a video, right? We've got to make a video of us getting to Camp Crystal Lake. In a video, looking at Google Maps is quite boring. What about a map? Could you navigate us there?
I'm pretty good with sense of direction.
Yeah, you are, yeah. Could you navigate us there with a map?
Yeah.
We should do that.
I can use a map. Right.
It looked good in the video.
We'll get on the map then.
Yeah.
We're getting a map of Forest Green.
Okay. Yeah. It's okay. So what's our other lessons? What we got?
Don't play strip Monopoly or a strip variant of any game or pastime.
Great stuff.
Don't skinny dip. Mm-hmm. Don't be rude to shopkeepers.
Yeah.
Don't leave the bathroom door unlocked. Don't be annoying. Don't get lost.
That's good.
Yeah, I think
good stuff.
If you said those were like my life lessons,
yeah,
I could send that to my grandkids.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. Yeah. All right, we've talked about the victims. Let's talk about our survivors.
Survivors: Tommy Jarvis, Megan Garris, and actually a load of kids.
Yeah.
At one point, at any point, you've seen this more recently or more than I have. At any point, do you think maybe the kids were going to get it?
I remember it being a thing. It's like, oh, he doesn't kill kids. Like, oh, there's a respect.
Or he's just got bigger fish to fry. Or it's like Predator. There's no challenge.
Yeah, because it feels like he was going for Tommy Jarvis as a kid.
I think he would have, if off the chance. The only thing, there's one moment when I was watching this, because it was the first viewing for me that I think anyway, when they get to the cabin and they go into the cabin where Paul has been killed, for a split second, I thought that was the cabin the kids were in.
Right.
The one that is absolutely decked in blood.
Yeah.
I was like, he's gone at him. Because it's so much blood.
Yeah.
And I know the human body's got like a bunch of liters of blood in it. But I was just like, he's just massacred all these kids off camera.
There's lots of the set design for all those bits actually. Like, we've not really talked about it, but like the set design for all
camp
those
is lovely.
Bits, yeah. But you know when it's all like blood and there's blood and stuff everywhere. I started thinking like, oh, this would make a really, really good like Halloween Horror Nights maze, in Universal Orlando. So I started looking up, oh, they must have done Friday the 13th. Obviously they have done Friday the 13th. But the interesting thing about that is, it's years ago now. It's like over 10 years ago, I think they did it. But the interesting thing about that, it was like when websites were getting like a big like push and everything had to have its own website. So Camp Crystal Lake
had like a fake website.
Had like a fake website.
Well, like you could book it like a prospectus.
So for Halloween Horror Nights, you could go on and you could like learn more about what was going to be in the thing. And they had it. Do you know where the line was for Halloween Horror Nights Friday the 13th? Down in Amityville. So down on like the pier and stuff, like by the water.
That is kind of
like
cool.
That's where the queue was to get in.
Well, that's quite cool.
Yeah.
You could actually turn that like lagoon into Crystal Lake.
Absolutely, yeah.
For the whole thing.
But it's weird that they not brought that back again, because I feel like that's an easy one, isn't it?
I reckon we'll talk about this towards the end of this run of episodes in the show. Is what do modern audiences think of Jason anymore?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where he exists for people.
No. Yeah, it's weird.
They've obviously done a really good job of bringing Michael Myers back in a big way.
Yeah.
But he was dormant for a long time. So it'll be, obviously the reason is because the rights for it have been really messed up for a long time. But it is kind of strange to know what reception he would have from a wider audience if he returned these days. I actually don't know. I don't feel like he's talked about a lot.
No. Yeah, it's hard because...
that's a really hard thing to gauge.
It's hard for me to think about it as a kid because obviously when I think I watched 6. So 6 came out, what do you say, 1986 came out?
Yes.
I definitely didn't watch it in 1986. I was 1 year old.
It's my birth, Jason.
So it's your birth, Jason. So I watched this. I must have been 7 or 8. So... by that point, there's more as well. Do you know what I mean? But it was just like around then, we've talked about this before on this podcast where you watch whatever you had access to because it was obviously not like today.
But they were big icons back then.
Yeah. And like
I knew Freddie, there was like such a thing.
I knew of these people because there was so little information about them, which I can always like kind of like counter argument to it. But it's like, because I didn't know, I couldn't just go on the internet and Google like, who the fuck is Jason or anything like that. Like there was more of like, oh, it's Jason Voorhees and he does this. Oh, it's Leatherface and he does this. Do you know what I mean?
We've reminisced about this a bunch of times on various podcasts over the years, but one of my favorite things as a kid, being a film fan, was going to the VHS store.
Yeah.
Like we had a local rental place. And I think just from boxes, these characters became like iconic for me. But in the same way that looking at like Batman comics on a rack.
Yeah.
Because it's like they are just a thing that I've gone away and imagined before I've actually got around to watching them.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
And when you're a kid and you love action figures, it's like, who's that character? I want to know everything about Donatello.
Yeah, no.
And
absolutely.
in the same way, becoming quite obsessive about these characters.
Definitely. But yeah, let's talk a bit more about Tommy then. Reading his manual of occultism.
He's
and then learning everything about occult.
He's proper all action in this one.
Yeah.
So is Megan, actually. Because Megan, you think she's going to be just kind of a similar, blonde heroine. She could be one that gets killed. But she actually has like, despite her appearance and like pink sweater and stuff, she's actually quite ballsy and gutsy, and she's quite sassy. She doesn't mind like really going at her dad in front of all his colleagues.
Yeah, it's a weird
she's
one.
Quite horny as well for Tommy. As soon as she sees him,
the weird kiss through the bars.
When he's
like, that's so strange.
And the bit where they're doing she's basically in a high speed chase, and got his head down in her crotch.
Yeah, she's into it. It's good. I think like. Yeah, the just that bit where he goes to get the book, and he sits down to concentrate, and he's like, right, gotta learn all this. Next time we see him, he's like, I know everything about the occult now.
I would study those books before going to dig him up.
Yes,
because surely you would have had that plan beforehand. And I know it's a visual marker for us, the audience, that this is where he got it from.
Yeah,
but his plan is to return Jason to where he originally died, to almost put him to rest, that just being there will give him this peace, because like he's been disturbed. The only thing is, when he gets down in there, he's still thrashing about like a maniac, and the thing that puts him to rest is killing him again a little bit with a boat,
which doesn't actually kill him.
So what you've actually done, even though it has this dressing of occultism, which I do like as a thing, because it adds to the mythology of Jason. What you've actually done is you've just incapacitated him. You've basically, you've ergapped him.
But what happens now?
Just like when he was buried,
what? But it feels like he's more awake and about. It almost feels like taking him back to Camp Crystal Lake.
It's a long time to do some thinking.
Yeah, it feels like taking him back to Camp Crystal Lake has almost re-energized him a little bit, because when he was in the cemetery, he's not doing anything. When he's down there, he's very much alive.
Yeah, well, with electricity, and then always just having all that time to just think about stuff.
In a lake, which we know people swim in.
Worst day of his life.
People will be swimming past him.
Kids
will be like dive bombing just in there, because where he got in, he was very close to shore, and then he's in that bit very close to shore. His head's almost above water.
But he's just, you know what it is? It's like, reminds me of, when Magneto is in that plastic prison. He's just ergapped. It's like, it does work. But could go wrong if anyone fucks up.
It will go
wrong. And that's
wrong.
in a public place. They're not like going to go.
They're
not going to put a fence around it and say, he's buried down there.
Well, I just don't know what that conversation is when, Tommy is speaking to the copper or whatever and being like, so I've sorted him out. We won't bother you again. Where is he? Can we see the body? Like, assuming you've got the body there. Yeah, I'll show you now. It's just there. His eyes are open. But just don't go anywhere near it. We've got a big load of kids there who want to go kayaking today. So are we saying...
Is this just ringed off?
We're just not using this lake anymore.
It's like when somebody says they fix something and you look at it and you go, it ain't fixed.
That's not fixed,
That's barely holding together.
But I wouldn't be happy with the job I'd done there as Tommy, to be fair. I'm learned a load from him.
It's hard to know whether it works for the reasons he thinks it works. Because
I don't know what his reasons are.
Well, the occult, like putting him at rest, like he kind of dresses it up like something he's cribbed from a book. It's like, do you actually read that book?
The thing is, that's almost quite a romantic thing, really, isn't it? Being like, if he'll be finally at rest.
But it's like unfinished business and that sort of stuff. But it's like, But his unfinished business is never finished because he loves fucking killing people.
Yeah. What can we learn from that?
I do think, well, I put Get Off with the Sheriff's Daughter.
Could do.
I did put Learn About the Occult.
Learn about the occult.
Be a kid.
I've put hide with the kids because it seemingly doesn't want to kill them. I don't know how many children are going to stay at Camp Crystal Lake on Friday the 13th. I feel like that was weird.
or little psycho kids.
Yeah.
He tries to attack them. They attack him back.
Thing is, though, it is kind of interesting because I remember, I think you said it last week, but you were like, Freddy was on pajamas.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like kids.
Yeah. In the original, child murderer, and in later films, implied to be a child molester.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want these? They were cheap in Walmart.
Yeah. My mom's got a photo of me when I like on holidays when I was a kid. So like I'm like 8, I think, and I've got a T-shirt with the Terminator on it. Like that is an 18 movie.
Yeah.
Like and like we talked about it loads, where it was like both of us were kids, but we had all of the Alien action figures.
Funny enough, I was talking to someone else about this the other day, and they were like, because they were much younger than me.
Yeah.
They were kind of thinking, I don't know if they were thinking they were like, like NECA toys.
Yeah.
Now, it was like, well, there's toys of everything these days.
Yeah.
No, these Alien toys were marketed to children.
They were children's toys.
Yeah, they weren't like high-end collectibles.
No.
Which exists everywhere now.
Absolutely,
it was not Forbidden Planet stuff. These were next to my Ghostbusters and Turtles figures in the shop.
Yeah, absolutely. They were children's figures specifically for children. Like they did stuff. Like the bull alien exploded.
They knew they were marketing them to us.
Yeah, I think I had like a flying queen alien that you put wings on it, and then you press a button, and then the wings flapped.
Yeah.
Like these were not to sit on a shelf. These were to fight.
Play. I'm just thinking about some amazing figures I had.
Yeah, but what I used to do was there was that X-Men cartoon, and I can't remember what the name of the planet is, but you know the one that Mojo runs, and Mojo basically like the cartoon's amazing. Like the episode of the X-Men cartoon is amazing because they're just there and nobody tells you why. But they basically warp all these X-Men to this planet where Mojo is like a big TV producer / director and just makes people fight in an arena. It was awesome. It's basically like Running Man. It's essentially like Running Man. But that's what I used to do with all my figures. Like I used to get like a big bit of paper on a wall. And this would take place over a whole summer where it would just be a huge knockout tournament. And every day we get a little bit further and further down the line. Like who's beating who. I put so much money. My parents put so much money. I put so much time into that.
But that was your investment.
Yeah.
And what you're describing is the best time of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what I mean.
That's the high point.
It was not like what was winning that tournament.
Who won?
Flying Queen Alien won quite a lot of the time.
I mean, like, good, isn't it?
Well, this is where I got to because I had loads of the McFarlane horror ones.
Oh, yeah, that twisted universe, like the.
Well, I had like Jason.
Oh,
I had Jason.
Yeah, that was the first time. Like, I remember that maybe it was the cusp of them transitioning into like more that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when you saw like a ghost face, I was like, whoa.
Well, there was because the cool thing that happened with Jason is you could obviously buy different Jasons, and you would get this sort of weird, like plastic poster holder, and then they had the poster of the thing, and then you would basically like position it on your thing.
Like it's like a little standee thing.
Yeah, it was kind of
I've forgotten
weird.
about those movie poster things.
Yeah, well, like the McFarlane, those toys were just out of control.
Because you also did a range where it was like, you can tell we don't got any lessons from this.
Yeah,
the one in the McFarlane ones where it was his version of like Alice in Wonderland or Dorothy, Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. That's good shit, man.
Oh, I'm going to go look at pictures then on the internet.
So, another one, maybe know how to start a boat.
Yeah.
Because if someone stuck me on a boat right now, right?
Yeah.
And was like, start the engine of that boat, I don't know a clue.
I do agree that if we're on a boat, we should know how to start it.
Yeah.
But I would go you one back, should be getting on a boat if we're going to Camp Crystal Lake.
You want to go on a boat, though? You gotta go out in that lake.
Okay.
Because I want to see. You want to see
him. You just
I want to make sure that he's dead.
Would you swim in it?
Yeah. I wouldn't skinny dip because that's the rules.
Yeah, better not do.
But I would.
If I see you taking off your bits,
I would.
If I see you unbuckling those dungarees,
Yeah, I definitely.
You know what?
I definitely swim in it.
You know what we should do? You should take a mason jar.
Yeah.
We should take water.
Shall we?
And then give it away.
Will we be allowed? Well, we just do it. They won't know.
How do you get it through customs though?
You get it through customs.
I've put it in your suitcase.
Yeah, you put it in your suitcase. Yeah.
Do you reckon you just nick some Camp Crystal Lake?
We've got to do that. That'd be so.
Or some soil.
That's so funny.
Do a competition for it.
Some
water.
We should do that with the videos. To be fair, we'll send you a VHS case full of water from Camp.
And don't say we don't ever give you anything. All right.
That's a good shout, actually. But yeah, we definitely got to do that.
Okay.
But they can't. We can't get in trouble for that.
And what we'll do is take a video of us filming it, so you know it's real.
Yes,
we haven't just done it from the tap.
That'll take you even further. Would you neck a jar full of?
We can't. This can't cut to me and you doing shots of Crystal Lake water because we could get really sick.
What we should do is whoever breaks the most rules on the trip has to do a pint of Camp.
I'm not doing I'm not doing a pint.
Well, we'll steal it anyway. But like,
where's Daniel this week? He's got diphtheria.
He's got diphtheria. Yeah. Sorry.
Good
podcast though. So
not for me. You ain't got diphtheria.
I like a manual. Get a manual of occultism.
Yeah, because that's not too hard to do.
Also,
that's not why I'm doing these. These don't have to be easy.
Yeah, but also to be fair, there's not a part of me that doesn't think you don't already own several occult manuals, Daniel. So, but yeah, like get a manual of occultism.
I'm going to write Master the Occult.
Master the Occult. Okay, let's do that.
But that can also be covered by bringing a book.
I do definitely want to know how to start a boat because someone stuck me on a boat right now. Start a boat.
I'll do that one.
No.
/ Gav learns a boat.
I've got to do knots as well though at the minute. So
and a fireman's lift.
And a fireman's
lift. Well, let me go through them.
Yeah.
Learn how to tie at least 3 knots, he said.
I've already done 2, so that's fine.
Okay. Go to a bunny use on trainers does not count.
Does count.
Go to a bar for most of the evening.
Yeah.
Easy, that one.
Mm-hmm.
Make an impact.
Yeah.
Bound for Camp Crystal Lake. Learn how to do a fireman's lift.
Yeah.
Master the Occult.
That's good. That's good stuff, man. That's good stuff. You know, anything else you want to say about Friday the 13th Part 6?
The only thing at the end, so we kind of covered the ending a lot with how they dispose of Jason. Do you know about the cut ending?
No.
And what Tom McLaughlin wrote? So you would have cut back. So Martin, the groundskeeper in the cemetery,
love him,
wasn't meant to originally die.
Oh.
And it would cut back to the cemetery.
Yeah.
And this is the question you said at the beginning, or maybe the last one, where you're like, who gave Jason a headstone?
Right.
Who's paying for his grave to be maintained? Yeah. And you would cut back and you would see money being given to Martin by a man. And that man was going to be Elias, Jason's father.
No.
And it was going to end with a shot of Jason's father looking like truly evil. Like the implication being whatever is wrong with Jason comes from him.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think the people at Paramount just went, love it.
Yeah.
But that saddles us with a thing.
Yeah.
And we've already just had a backlash to not having Jason.
Yeah.
So you're going to then it's kind of what happens in the Halloween movies.
Yeah, it's almost called the Thorny that.
Where they set that up and they're going, so I've got to follow on that, have I?
Yeah. No, that's true.
But I love the idea of it. And I think it still exists in the novelization.
Oh, cool.
Of the film.
Wow.
And I think they have explored it in the comics.
Right.
Now, in a few weeks, it's 13 weeks when we started this podcast until we go to Camp Crystal Lake. But there's only 12 films.
Right.
So I think in that week before we get to Camp Crystal Lake, we should go back and look at expanded world.
Yeah.
So novels, comics.
Yeah.
Not read them all, but like see if there's any cool stuff like that in them.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do that. That's cool, man.
Gav, do you think you would have survived Jason Lives?
I think I'd have had a good chance, but I don't know how to start that boat, man. And that seems to be the thing that stops Jason. So I think I would have gone on the boat, and I can't Google at that point how to start a boat, that's how I would do it now. I'd look at four YouTube videos and I'd know about boats. So I don't think I would now.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, we're at the halfway point. And next week we're returning with part 7 and meeting the new blood.
The boy, is he dead too?
Ma'am, we didn't find any boy.